Hey folks, you've probably seen the buzz about this new mini gaming PC that's been popping up all over the forums, and I wanted to dive into it because the hype around a compact powerhouse is hard to ignore. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I've been testing it for a few weeks now, and I think it's worth talking about what it actually does in everyday use. First off, the performance side is driven by a Ryzen 9 9950X 3D processor paired with an RTX 5060 graphics card. In practical terms, that means you can crank out modern titles like Cyberpunk 2077 at 1080p with high settings and still have room for a background stream. I tried running a live stream on Twitch while playing a fast-paced shooter, and the frame rate stayed smooth without any hiccups. The 16 cores and 32 threads also shine when you're editing video or rendering 3D models. A 10-minute 4K clip was processed in about half the time I'd expect on a typical desktop. Memory and storage are another area where this little box makes a difference. With 64 GB of DDR5 RAM, multitasking feels almost effortless. I was able to keep a browser with dozens of tabs, a music production app, and a couple of cloud-based games all running at once without the usual slowdown you see on lower-end machines. The 1TB PCIe 4.0 SSD loads games in seconds, and because it's an NVMe drive, moving large files between programs is practically instantaneous. If you're the type who likes to keep a library of games and creative assets on hand, the speed boost is very noticeable. One of the most convenient features is the connectivity suite. The system comes with dual 2.5 gigabits Ethernet ports, a USB-C with power delivery, and Wi-Fi 7 built in. In my home office, I plugged one LAN cable into the router for a wired gaming session, while the second LAN port stayed free for a backup connection to a separate network for my smart home devices. The Wi-Fi 7 connection delivered stable, low-latency performance even when the router was a few rooms away, which is a big plus if you ever need to work from the couch or move around the house. Speaking of moving around, the size of this PC is surprisingly compact. It fits on a narrow desk beside my monitor, and it still supports up to 6 displays. I set up a dual-monitor workspace for coding, a third screen for a Discord chat, and even a fourth for a real-time stock ticker. The ability to drive multiple screens means you can keep work, play, and communication organized without juggling external GPUs or adapters. For creators who need several reference windows open at once, this flexibility is a real time saver. Cooling is often a concern with high-end components crammed into a small chassis, but the designers used a smart airflow system that kept the Ryzen chip and RTX card within safe temperatures even under load. During a stress test where I ran a CPU benchmark and a GPU benchmark simultaneously, the fans ramped up just enough to maintain a 70 degrees Celsius average, and the noise level stayed below what you'd hear in a normal coffee shop. That balanced cooling approach means you're not trading performance for a noisy room. Okay, let's talk about the pros and cons that stood out after a few weeks of everyday use. The biggest strengths are the raw processing power, which lets you game, stream, and edit without feeling bottlenecked, the generous DDR5 memory and fast SSD that together make loading and switching between heavy applications feel fluid, and the extensive connectivity options that cover wired, wireless, and display needs all in one compact box. On the downside, the price point is higher than a typical mini PC, so it's a bigger investment if you're only after basic tasks. Also, because the GPU is a mid-range RTX 5060, you won't hit the ultra settings at 4K on the newest titles, but it still delivers solid performance at 1440p and lower resolutions. All in all, the Thdeukoty AI Mini Gaming PC feels like a bridge between the convenience of a small form factor and the muscle of a full-size workstation. If you're looking for a machine that can handle a serious game library, keep a streaming setup running, and still serve as a reliable workstation for creative work, it delivers on those fronts without demanding a dedicated room full of hardware. The design is sleek, the warranty gives a bit of peace of mind, and the cooling keeps things quiet enough for late-night sessions. Thanks for hanging out and listening to my take on this compact powerhouse. If you're curious to see the exact specs or want to give it a try,